All right. Hey, welcome everybody. Sean, Kevin, Pat, and Lori, all from RPH Ally. This is fun. All right, so we are talking about Career Compass today. It's a new kind of career, career compass. That's what it is. But first, I'm going to tell you the story. I'm going to let Lori and Pat tell you exactly what we're doing with the support channel. Backing up a few months when we were talking about launching these support channels, I really wanted to get a career pharmacy career coaching type platform within the company or within the platform itself. It's different than all the education channels that we're launching. And then I met Pat and Lori. Well, I met Lori first. She updated my resume on the feng shui resume, which is amazing. And then shortly after our New York Times article dropped, where we were called up, like Bled name dropped RPH Ally there, Pat reached out and said, I want to help, right? So just knowing these two individuals and what they bring, like from, I want to say like a human perspective, right? Like it's not pharmacy skills that we're learning here at Career Compass, right? This is more like taking the mirror or the focus and turning it inward to identify your strengths and being able to express those strengths, into the world that we want to bring fulfillment in. So that was just kind of my story with this, where I thought, wow, being a pharmacist, we love guidelines, we love taking orders, right? And then, but like, we do not know how to look at ourselves, talk to ourselves, and kind of figure things out for ourselves in that perspective. So I'm really excited for this, and I'm really excited for these two lovely ladies to get working with our pharmacists that need to find their true north. So with that, I'm gonna kick it over to Kevin to ask the first questions here.
Yeah, perfect, buddy. No, thanks so much, Lori and Pat. I've spent time with both of you. Absolutely love you guys. So thank you so much for joining us here and for having the passion to kind of connect. I mean, I've talked to both Lori and Pat about the struggles that like the pharmacy world is going through. And the difference between a lot of other folks that are out there is that Pat and Lori actually care, right? There is a big difference because sometimes the whining and crying that happens inside of a profession, it can be very siloed and no one is hearing it. No one is listening. But Pat and Lori have been two individuals that have wanted to know more and wanted to find out ways because they can see the benefit, that pharmacists are providing to healthcare and to patient care, in general, and want to be able to cultivate that further. So on that note, like tell us in general, Lori and Pat, if you guys can, the specific kind of specialties that you guys have in your career track. Like why in Career Compass did you decide to kind of do what you guys are both currently doing? Pat, if I can go to you first, would be great, and then we'll pass it over to Lori.
Well, I think that the beauty of the channel, and thank you for what you said about us. I think it's very true. I know Lori has been working with pharmacy folks for a long time, and I have, as a researcher, collaborated with pharmacists and have seen up close the enormous gifts that I had no idea were there. And so when I read the article in the New York Times about this movement, I felt very much strongly like I need to be a part of this. In terms of what Lori and I think we're very complementary. I will let Lori speak for herself, but what I love about, among the many things I like about being here in this channel with Lori, is that we have overlap in terms of our skills, and we certainly have a lot of overlap in terms of how we're oriented in terms of our hearts, but we also have differences. And I can speak to at least, I would say, one of the things that I think I enjoy bringing to the coaching work that I do, and especially enjoy bringing to pharmacists, is I believe strongly in everybody's got gifts, and that individuals are happiest when they're sharing those gifts, and the world is best served, that we're really born to share these gifts with the world. And again, I've seen the pharmacists and the enormous gifts. What I also I have a background in research. I've done NIH funded research, and I bring a researcher's mind and heart, I would say, to the process of career discovery and connection. And what that actually means is I will work with you, and what we'd be sharing here on the channel is helping you to sort of using evidence-based strategies for building resilience And, you know, I'm big into sort of looking for the patterns, which is what a researcher does. Look for the patterns that people aren't seeing, and then create little experiments in behavior change to test and to gain new data. And we'll be sharing that on the channel. Lori has a huge wealth of skills too, so I don't want to speak for Lori, but I guess that if I were to say what I'm bringing, I bring a researcher's orientation to the process with a great love of the unique gifts that we all have in watching them unfold.
I love that. Before I pass it over to Lori, I think that, Pat, you hit it on the head when you talked about the researcher way of looking at things and looking at patterns, because during career transitions, or when we're considering different things that we could potentially use as options, sometimes that pros and cons list, the which path should I take, the algorithmic thinking that you would feel that pharmacists should have, they go out the window, because it's a really tough and emotional time that we go very,
Yes.
you know, we go inside and have some doubt, you know, related to like, what are the next steps going to be? And you being able to lay out, like, from a research perspective, connecting the dots perspective, like, let's really analyze, like, what can your next steps be, and what's out there, and how can you go about that? But how you go about that, I think, is really Lori's, you know, true gift and skill set. But I'll pass it over to Lori to be able to describe that a little bit more.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And Pat, thank you. Boy, you know, I just have to say the artwork behind Pat, she painted. She is left brain and right brain and heart. And I am as well. I love a quote by Wolfgang Johann Goethe, who once said, because he was a scientist and an artist and a governor and I think he was an actor. And somebody said to him one day, "What do you do?" And he said, "Well, I guess I bring poetic form to everyday life." And that is what I try to do. I have come to realize I was a banker, as an executive banker, and it was 2001. And the horrible September 11th hit. And I said, I need to practice radical kindness in the world. And I decided to go into recruiting because I recognized that one's work life is one of the three most important aspects to wellness. It's your love life, you know, your partnerships, your children, your community. It's your physical health and mental and spiritual health. And it's your work. It's what you do. And any one of those is the quickest path to enlightenment, because each one is full of suffering. And that's natural. If we look at how a monarch caterpillar finally becomes a butterfly, there's a lot of danger as it's shedding its skin. There are moments where it can be even preyed upon, even when it goes finally into that chrysalis and it's very, very still, and the imaginal cells come to life and it forms its wings. It still has to push out of that chrysalis and hang upside down, and gravity does its work. And so there's so much with this potential danger and suffering, but it actually leads then to a full wingspan. So I've come to realize that the career path and career renewal, there's so much suffering, and people don't always know how to harness that for good. And so I said, well, I'm going to take this pain point pathway and I'm going to help people actually recognize, oh, you know, I've just been laid off, or maybe I'm being pushed out because I don't like even what this company's about anymore, or I don't feel that this aspect is even for me. There's something that's feeling really angsty and really hot and awful. Well, that's what I call an antagonistic mentor. That is a directional guidepost that says there's something else for you. And we actually move more quickly forward in our lives when there is something like that, something that feels like a crisis. And if we can recognize it actually as poetic, as purposeful, then we can go ahead, steal the feels, still have the pain, you know, sit in the hot bath, you know, have a cookie, eat some cookie dough, you know, whatever it is. But then harness that and hopefully have a support network like RPH Ally, like Pat, like myself, all of us, because we are social creatures and we are always supposed to be here supporting each other. And we have been so siloed because of how busy we are. And also just because really the world that's trying to somewhat have its way with us would rather us be fragmented and broken into little mini pieces. Pharmacists, and that is like the group that I have served since I became a recruiter in 2003. Pharmacists, I've always found to be so empathic, so compassionate, and such doers, and so in the middle of the wheel, in the middle, like right there with all the spokes, and nursing's coming in, and patients are coming in, and physicians are coming in, and regulatory's coming in, and suppliers, and lack of supply, and and then viruses, and everything going on. And you've got the pharmacist in the middle saying, I got you, okay, and really trying to hold emotionally and kind of keep a foundation there, and has always been very central. I always found, like when I first became a pharmacy recruiter, that the group was called ancillary services. And I was like, ancillary. And then in time it became allied services. And I'm like, still even more than that. And now it's core. Really, COVID brought it up. So it's I got my chills, and what I'm about to say is that it is the time for this community now to cross-pollinate and to leverage mutual wisdom, ideas, strengths. There is enough for everyone. And if we really open up and share, then we do renew, and we do go through this time, which is a metamorphic time that we're all experiencing in the world. So we're going deep, and we're going big, and we're touching hearts, and we really care. So we're here for you.
So, Lori, here's one thing that I feel like I've just grown to respect so much about the way that you go about things. I mean, I love both of you equally, but one thing that I was saying about Pat was that the research element is necessary for us to algorithmically think through what could next steps be? What's the likely best path kind of forward? One thing that you touch on and you do so well, and you have both Pat and I laughing sometimes, is man, Lori really she does this. That's one of her gifts, is something that's very uncomfortable. You looking inwardly, you doing as you were saying, getting out of the chrysalis kind of element. No one likes to think that way. Everybody wants life to be easy. You want to be able to just kind of sit there on the beanbag looking at life. And it's this is the next steps are going to just happen and unfold. And when we're hit with conflict, it can be super uncomfortable, and we can find ways to make sure that everything is falling apart. But for you to be able to say, let's look at this as an incredible opportunity for not only self-growth, but also to find purpose. I think that's wonderful. So usually my next question for you guys is, why RPH Ally? I mean, I think you guys have already answered it. Why RPH Ally? You're saying everything about it. If we're going to apply the research, if we're going to prepare people to be able to go through difficult times, we've got to have each other. We've got to have more data. We've got to have more relationships, to make those things work. And we have to have the opportunities that lie after those things formulate. So you guys are a fantastic fit there. Let's go to the, deeper question that people are going to really wonder. And I'll do the same order again. Pat, we'll start with you, and then to Lori on when someone comes into the channel, what are they going to expect? When they come into Career Compass, what are they going to see, Pat? What are they going to expect? And what are you wanting them to get out of it?
Well, I want them first to know, and I mean, I think this is true for both of us, is that this is a place for people who feel really confused. If you don't have an idea of what to do or where to go, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling the pain, and the self-talk is going on big time with you're stuck. If you're hearing in your head, you're stuck, there's no way out, this isn't going to get better, everything you've tried hasn't worked, or whatever, this is the place to come. Because we're here to go through this journey with you and to attest to the fact that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You can really do this. Lori and I, in our own careers, ourselves, as well as through the work that we've done with others, know that it's possible to pivot. And very much along the lines of what Lori says, is that pain is offering you a direction and an opportunity to connect to your gifts. So when you come here, know that you can come. Know that even if you don't know what you need or what you want, this is the place to come. We are here. We're gonna offer everything we got. We're gonna do Q&A. We're gonna do live stuff. We're gonna do things so that we can also kind of, that it'll be organic, that we will be organically evolving with you. Because one of the things that you said, Kevin, that and the reason I reached out to Sean, and certainly this is something you've said to me yourself, Kevin, and Lori just sort of expressed it as well, is that this is an extraordinary moment, I think. I mean, I'm not a pharmacist, but I feel like I hold hands with pharmacists, emotionally and professionally. And you're co-creating your future. This is the moment where you're really, and there's always discomfort first, but this is an extraordinary place and an extraordinary moment where you are co-creating your future as individuals. And again, you're struggling, you're confused, come on over. You know, Auntie Lori and Auntie Patty will be here for you. But it's also an extraordinary moment. You're part of something that's really powerful. And individually, there are so many. I mean, actually, what I love about being a researcher is every time before I tie my research hat on, there's always something that moves my heart. And I go, oh, I want to know more. I want to know more. I need to know more. And then I tie my researcher hat on and say, okay, how am I going to do this? Same is true in the world of career discovery, I would say, is there may be a pain point that's going, but there's also on the other side of that, there's a moment of expansiveness where you can say, and Lori knows this, and I know this, you know, who were you born as? How did you come into this world? Because everybody comes into this world in a particular way with different I mean, it's I mean, at the risk of sounding corny, it's every flower on this planet is a unique flower. Every human being is a unique human being. A rose shouldn't try to be a lily, you know, so you shouldn't try to be somebody else. You should just be you. And there is that glorious moment at the beginning of the process where you do have the opportunity to say, okay, if I get my second grade teacher's voice out of my head and I get, you know, Uncle Joe's voice out of my head, who's there and what's happening? So come on over. We're here for it all.
Oh, I love that, Pat. And I think that you mentioned something that, once again, like, I like to touch on the discomfort here, because for so many people, like, this conversation, when you guys re-listen to it, it's going to be slightly uncomfortable for you to think of, no, what I want, Kevin and Sean, is just, I want someone to present me with a job opportunity that I can just transition to. Like, that's just the next place to go. And unfortunately, the more uncomfortable thing about that is going into the wrong place that will not serve you again, right? It will not satisfy those gifts that these gals are talking about. And really, they're trying to let you connect with something that matters for the future of your career, for your family, for just your overall health and satisfaction. So, Lori, if you can for us, can you kick us off with some just last words of elements, and then Sean, I'll send it over to you.
Yes. You know, it's interesting because today is the eclipse of the moon. And a big part of what we even chose the name Career Compass, which really kind of poetically dropped into our hearts even today, because we were going to call it Career Discovery and Communications. That's what's going on in there. What we really, it's when you're in that in-between spot, as Pat said, as well as anyone come on in for the sake of activating your own power of attraction and your own authenticity. What I have come to realize is that the living science of success is authenticity. Mm-hmm. And that is 100% where it begins. Mm-hmm. And you will match to a great spouse, to great friends, to great work, to a great moment with yourself when you are grounded and seated and connected, and not like you know, hearing the voices of the second grade teacher. It's a great one. You know, when you really are cultivating and understanding, how do I do that? How do I communicate that? How do I express that? How do I listen from that sort of place? How in an interview do I even show up authentically? How can I even be in a conflict situation with a coworker who maybe even is coming off as attacking? There's a lot that we're even going to talk about within Career Compass, which is just about authenticity and how to be successful where you're working, you know, how to show up authentically. And that leads you into growth, change, anything. So it's all alive, but with that theme of the compass, you know, it has an attraction, it is pointing, and it's magnetic. And so many people go through life 50% only just with holding on to their own grit to get through. But there's the 50% of the mystery. There's this whole other part of other people's desires, of other people's needs, of this bonding or collaboration. You know, there's such a need for that right now. And that's what I see here with this app, with RPH Ally, is that it's like, let's collaborate. You know, I mean, COVID, climate, and, you know, all the crisis that we've had, culture, all these crises. What's birthing out of that? It's collaboration right now. Collaboration. So we're going to have a lot of fun. Who knows where this is going to go, but it's definitely seated in all that authenticity and goodness and heart and crisis, but in a good way.
Absolutely. No, I love it, Pat and Lori. Thank you so much, because I mean, everything that you said, I mean, we also have the educational skills, right? Those channels that we have, you know, whatever you want to get into in different pharmacy, that's 100% great. I don't think anybody has Lori and Pat. So that's what I'm really excited about, is bringing you two in, just connecting again as human beings. Just everything you said is exciting, and it's really needed in pharmacy today. So I'm really excited to have you on board supporting us. So thank you. So to everybody else, rphally.com, get signed up and check out Lori and Pat's Career Compass channel. So yeah. It's so new, fresh off the press today. So. All right. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.